Welcome everyone, this is Tactical Lich here, and today we are at Total War Warhammer 3 patch 2.2 with a massive update to a bunch of unit stats and whatnot. Yes, there are some big bugs, but still, there is one really great change that I am excited to see, and that is the High Elf buff. Basically, most of the High Elf units got buffed with a massive price reduction across the board, making them their biggest weakness. Their expensive units, leading to a lack of units on the board, a less prominent problem. So in this battle submitted by Mr. Tufel here, we will be seeing the now discounted High Elves fighting against the Beastmen army. For the army builds, we have a bunch of Elarian Reaver archers providing a bunch of skirmishing firepower, and at the back, it is rather similar to what you see in campaign. Well, a lot of Loven Sea God with their arrow fire ready to shower any enemies with missile volleys whenever they get close, with only a couple Phoenix Guards in front providing a bit of protection against enemy infantry. Also on the flanks, Silver Helms to counter enemy mobility, and that is basically the entire High Elf army, very missile heavy and only minimal infantry protection. Led by Tacklers here with a bunch of spells including the Bound, Fiery Convocation, Regrowth, Knight of Ammontok, basically not a melee powerhouse like other monstrous lord, leaving the heavy lifting to the numbers heavy High Elf army with more arrows, mob bodies, giving the entire High Elf army more presence on the battlefield. As for the Beastmen army, a very standard Ungor front line with a lot of spears and some regular Ungor herds mixed in together. Also, there are some Razor Gore herds in the forest in case they need to fight heavily armored High Elf cavalry or infantry. They might not be the best unit, but their charge still hurts. In the middle, some Minotaurs with great weapons in case they need to hunt down some dragons with their giant axes. Supported by Morgar the Shadow Gave with his Chaos Spawn summon, Spell Department Brave Shaman with Flock of Doom and Transformation of Kadon for those Manticore summons. At the back, a whole lot of Missile Fire Ungor Raiders, Centaurs with Throwing Axes, more Ungor Raiders, and Ungor Raiders. One single Tuskor Chariots for the armor-piercing anti-infantry as well. In the skies, a couple Feral Manticore for that kind of backline disruption and also single entity sniping power. In the far side of this corner, a couple sneaky Centaurs hiding away in Vanguard deployment, ready to spring an ambush onto the High Elf missile backline. That's basically it for both army builds, and now let's see how these elves on the discount shelves perform in battle. Personally, I hate this map with a passion because of how narrow this little choke point is. If an army can basically seal these up with some Vanguard deploy infantry or something like that, the other army will have no chance to flank around with their mobility and will be forced to do a frontal engagement. But thankfully for the Beastmen, they do have a lot of Vanguard options, so they managed to sneak some Centaurs into the backlines, and also the High Elves today are not bringing a wide front line, and the Beastmen are free to push. But of course, the High Elf armies will be digging into their position, aiming their bows and arrows right at those incoming Beastmen hordes, and ready to greet them with a very pointy welcoming. At the same time, the Reaver archers have been giving the Ungor herds a little arrow appetizer, giving them a bit of skirmishing fire, chipping away their health. Silver Helms doing a nice hit and run with their charge impact damage, dishing out some pain against the lightly armored Ungors. And then the Phoenix Guard will be rushing forward, covering the retreat of the Silver Helms, while they themselves will be slicing down all these poor Ungors with their supreme martial mastery. On the right flank, the Phoenix Guards are also pushing into combat, but the Silver Helms have been hanging back. Though there are now some Ungor spears pushing in, so the Silver Helms will be forced to respawn. At the same time, now that the Lothland Sea Gods are secured, they will be unleashing volley after volley of arrows into the blobbed up Beastmen infantry. Unfortunately though, High Elf's lack of melee infantry opens up a huge gap that the Beastmen monsters, Minotaurs and Razor Gores are able to exploit. At the back, the mobility from the Beastmen army is activated with Centaurs charging out of the tree line aiming for the High Elf backline, but the Loven Sea God do have anti-large with their spears, so the Centaurs don't want to stay in there for too long, while the Silver Helms will be counter-charging them, doing some nice impact damage. In the skies, Feral Manticore diving onto the ground here, trying to hunt down some Elarian Reaver archers. Not exactly a terrible engagement, but not the best either because of how cheap these Reaver archers are now at. Costing 50 gold less at 600 cost, they are not quite worth the time of the 800 gold manticores. Now back to the front line, Silver Helms sacrificing their lives to hold the Beastman monsters at bay. Getting chopped down by the anti-large great weapons Minotaurs, but these Minotaurs are now subject to the crossfire from multiple Loven Seaguard units. Of course, the Tuskor chariots charge into the Loven Seaguard doing some nice disruption, but they are left in combat for too long. Their AT armor isn't enough to save them, being surrounded by anti-large spears, so these Tuskor chariots will be going down. With no more Beastman mobility disrupting, the Loven Seaguard are free to hoist their spears and pull out their bows to shoot once again. A Chaos Spawn summoned is dropped onto the field, but a quick net from Tactless pins them on the middle of the battlefield, allowed all these freed up Loven Seaguard to shoot them to pieces. Of course, Feral Manticore is being summoned and chasing after Tactless, but he is not exactly easy to hunt down. Swift on his steed, and also he does have some other healing options like Regrowth and Potion of Shiroi, so the Feral Manticore is probably better off chasing after these Loven Seaguard and silence them, as all these Chaos Spawns are absolutely shredded, being filled with holes and turned into Swiss cheese by the relentless shooting of the Loven Seaguards. Phoenix Guard, unopposed by any of the Beastman infantry, basically just drive into the back, pushing all these Ungor Raiders backwards, and now they are unable to support those frontline engagements. Even some Silver Helms have charged forward, chasing away the Ungor Raiders, but of course Tentacles with throwing axes will be countering with a bunch of armor-piercing missiles, stripping away their health. Still, that is not gonna make too much of a difference here, as High Elves have already taken control of the battle. Yes, the balance of power is quite even, but that's because of how damaged Tactless is right now, while Morgor the Shadowgave is still very healthy, upholding that balance of power for Beastmen. And at this point, Beastmen can't deal with the Loven Seaguards because anything that tries to get close will get shot down. Also, the Manticores have been spending too much of their time chasing after the Illyrian Reaver archers. Finally, they are flying back to the middle engagement, trying to drop down and snipe out Tactless, but surrounded by spears and arrow fire. This is probably a mission impossible. Even some Phoenix Guards have joined this mosh pit, and now these Manticores are in big trouble. With Tactless barely surviving, coming in with a heal for himself, the Manticores failed to snipe out the High Elf Lord, and at the same time they got rampaged. And then they'll be quickly routed by a combination of anti-large attacks and crossfire, leaving Morgor in this engagement by himself. With the Manticores gone, the Loven Seaguard can finally turn their attention to these Ungor Raiders, who dare challenge the High Elves to a missile fight. With 3 whole units of Loven Seaguard pouring in those arrow fire, the Ungors will be quickly routed, and at this point Beastmen simply do not have the numbers or mobility to challenge the High Elf position. There are some Tentacles charging in trying to disrupt those Loven Seaguard from firing, but they are so depleted it won't even matter in the end. Morgor is still stuck among a bunch of Loven Seaguard. Yes, he is still very healthy, but he lacks that damage output to change the course of battle. At the same time, the High Elf units who were pushing are now returning into the main formations, especially the Silver Helms, who have taken substantial damage from the armor-piercing throwing axes. At this point, the balance of power is against Beastmen, and knowing that there are not a lot of options to turn this table around, given how much elfin presence on the board thanks to their now reduced pricing, the Beastman player decided to throw in the towel. GG to Mr. Tufel here and my clanmate from BBB Tranchete. For the army performances here, we have a whole bunch of cheaper High Elf units here. Phoenix Guard only costing 1,300 gold, so that's 200 gold worth of saving. Loven Seaguards costing 50 gold less, so 250 savings in total, and 100 less gold for each Illyrian Reaver archers, so another 400 gold saving. So in the end, the High Elf army this time saved up 850 gold extra so they can purchase an additional Loven Seaguard and upgrade the Silver Helms to the shielded variant, giving them a lot more presence on the battlefield with more missiles, more bodies, and more staying power with the Silver Helms added missile block chance and also their extra melee defense. This makes the High Elf army harder to shut down as the Loven Seaguard cannot be fully silenced, and they have enough bodies of missiles, of arrow volleys to shoot down anything that dares to get close. While any mobility that tries to threaten the backline will be countered by a combination of Silver Helms and possibly the Tactless Net of Ammontok there pinning down, say, the Minotaurs, allowing the Lothern Sea God to turn around and then shoot up all those Minotaurs, pin down monsters with ease. A Chaos Spawn summoned by Morgor the Shadowgate also had a similar treatment, and the poor Manticores didn't really stand a chance against all these anti-large attacks, especially with the Phoenix God protecting in close vicinity. As for the Beastman army here, the Manticores, as you can see here, not doing too much. One of the Feral Manticore did some nice value, probably eating up some Ilarian Reaver archers and hitting on Tacklers, but unfortunately that is not enough to turn the game around. Centaurs being countercharged by some armored cavalry, not the best engagement for them. Tuskor Chariots, not a lot of value being stuck on anti-large infantry, they are basically cut to pieces. While the rest of the army, all these Ungors, not doing a whole lot damage here, being shot up by a combination of Lothern Sea God Crossfire and then Razorgore Herds. One of them got some decent value, but the problem is they don't have a lot of armor themselves and are easily shut down by the melee attacks from the Lothern Sea God. The poor Minotaurs with great weapons being pinned by the Net of Amantok and being just shot down by a whole bunch of Lothern Sea God, not doing a lot of damage themselves. Morgor the Shadowgate being a tanky character, not a damage dealer, mostly there for the Chaos Spawn summon to disrupt, so despite being rather healthy, he was not able to turn the game around at all. Ray Shaman got some Manticore summons and that's basically it. Anyways, that's all for today's battle. Big thanks to Mr. Tufel for sending in this replay, and viewers, I hope you enjoyed this battle. If you do, remember to hit the like and subscribe to get notified every time I upload new videos. And if you want to showcase your own replay, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check them out. That's basically it for today. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.